Hello everyone, good to see you again. We are in special days, the days that we are getting ready for the holiday of Pesach, and we're all getting very busy. I'm sure all of you too. Also, we have special coming up. We're having the birthday of our Rebbe in the 11th of Nisan, right before Pesach. So let's share a few words about that, about the idea of Pesach, but the idea of the Rebbe's birthday coming up, and we'll try to do it as short as possible. Learn the story that first year, the first day of the month of Nisan, this is the first mitzvah when Hashem gave to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Aaron, about the Chodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim, and then they gave him the mitzvah of the Paschal Lamb, as we know. And that was the mitzvah to bring the Paschal Lamb and to slaughter it the kosher way, and to put the blood at the door, etc., with all the details. Also, another mitzvah they had, and this is the circumcision, because in order to be able to eat the Paschal Lamb, they had to have the circumcision first. All this, the mitzvah began, as we know, the 10th day of the month of Nisan. This is when God was telling Moshe Rabbeinu, on the 10th day of the month of Nisan, this is the day that each one should get the lamb in order to do the mitzvah. There's a famous, beautiful Rashi. The Rashi speaks about it, and he brings from one of our greatest sages in the time of the Talmud. His name was Rabbi Naftali ben Chorosh. Naftali ben Chorosh was one of the great sages in the time of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Ishmael, and all those great luminaries of Am Yisrael in those days, right after the destruction of the temple. As we know, Rabbi Naftali ben Chorosh, being different than everyone else in his times, Rabbi Akiva and everybody else had this great yeshiva, great studying in Israel. Rabbi Naftali ben Chorosh, he's one great luminary that he moved away from Israel and he moved to Rome to open a yeshiva for all those Jews that were exiled into Rome. And in Rome he opened up a great yeshiva. As the Talmud itself says, to learn Torah, people would travel to be with Rabbi Naftali ben Chorosh in Rome, a real great shaliach, a real great Jew, that he was working outside of Israel, in Rome, in the impurity, and open up a great yeshiva. So he's the one that says, what was the idea that before Jews living Egypt, right before the Exodus, God gave him the mitzvah of the Paschal Lamb and the mitzvah of circumcision. And he says that the Jews prior of leaving Egypt, right before redemption, right before getting out of exile, the Jews were naked of mitzvahs. They didn't have anything of their own positive in order to get out of exile. And they needed something positive, a mitzvah on their own. And this is what Hashem wanted, at least to have two mitzvahs. The mitzvah of circumcision, the mitzvah of the Paschal Lamb, to have some positive, not to be naked, in order to be able to get out of exile, in order to be able to be the redemption of Egypt. When he says this is the beauty of the mitzvah that we have in the 10th of Nisan, the mitzvah that Hashem gave us, that in order when we leave Egypt, in order when we get out of exile, we should get out not naked, we should get out with a mitzvah. And that great message is delivered to us by the great sage, as we said before, Rabbi Naftali ben Chorosh. But the great lesson continues, and it continues as we know that this month of Nisan is the month of the first redemption, and this will be the month of the last redemption of Mashiach. And that message keeps on ringing in our ears, the message of Rabbi Naftali ben Chorosh, that this month is the time to get out of redemption, of exile. Sorry for my mistakes. This month is the time that we're leaving Egypt. This month is the time that we're leaving exile. Benisan nigalu, benisan asidin legoil. We're going to get out of exile. But in order to get out of exile, we got to make sure that every Jew does at least one mitzvah, not to get out naked from exile. That's the message is being delivered to us. And we see who's delivering the message to us constantly. This is our Rebbe, that his birthday is also in this month, as we said before, the 11th of Nisan. The Rebbe, through his lifetime, and on and on and on, he's making sure that every Jew to be able to do at least one mitzvah, either the mitzvah of tefillin, or the mitzvah of tzedakah, or the mitzvah of kosher, as all the mitzvahim of the Rebbe came up with. This all ideas, the Rebbe tells to us, we're leaving exile, we're going to our redemption. But before leaving exile, every Jew's got to do at least one mitzvah, to come to Mashiach, to come to redemption, not naked, to come with a mitzvah. And just to conclude, one little story with the Rebbe, that this is his birthday, as we said, this month. That this story was still in 1947, prior of him being Rebbe, and he came then to France from the United States. He came to France in order to pick up his mother, to bring her to the United States, to bring her to him. As a long story about that. And he was sitting and talking to Hasidim. And he went to two Hasidim. By the way, one of the two Hasidim is my wife's great uncle. His name was Chaim Schreiber. I went to visit him in Israel when I was there with my wife. A great man. He's not alive anymore. Unfortunately, I had no kids. Let the story be for his memory, for his zechut. And the Rebbe turned to these two Hasidim and said, why don't you take a walk on the street in Paris? Just like that. And they listened, even though he wasn't Rebbe, but he was the son-in-law of the Rebbe at that time. And they took a walk. And with them went another Chassid. He just passed away now, lived in Chabad. He said he wants to see what's going to be. And they went for a walk on the street, a few young fellows. And as they walk in, they see an old Jewish mother, and she calls them and she says, people, I need a favor. I have a grandson. I need a Kaddish. He's asked to have bar mitzvah. What do I do with him? He doesn't know anything. And they suggested to her, there's a synagogue not too far. They gave the address. Go there with him and educate him. And they left. They never knew the continuation of this story. What did the Rebbe want at that time? What happened at that time? But the story was, as we know later, in Kfar Chabad today lives a Jew, a great chassid. And this great chassid, he's the little kid that he was sent to that synagogue by the Rebbe, sending his two boys. And he became today a great chassid. This is the work of our Rebbe. Sometimes we don't see it, but we see a lot of it. And the message of all this work is, let's get every Jew to do one mitzvah in order. Mashiach is coming this month, any day. We should be able to go with some mitzvahs to Mashiach. Every self all a good Shabbos and a good for bringing for the Rebbe's birthday too.